A lot can happen when you're the world's largest search engine. Here's everything toxic that Google did in 2023. In January, Google joined in the firing trend, getting rid of 12,000 staff, including the head of mental health and well-being. Anyone who survives these layoffs is going to need her more than ever because they will have a fuck ton of work to do. An engineer was laid off after 16 years at Google, said that faceless tech giants see staff as 100% disposable. Shocked Pikachu face? Can't believe it took them 16 years to notice. Then we discovered Google's planned AirTag clone will track on 3 billion Android phones under the working title G-Spot. I imagine a lot of men will struggle to find it. Then BMW found a way to bring Android to its cars without giving Google money. In short, BMW is using the open source Android code and not the Google license one, so they don't have to share all the in-car private information with Google, and it will be shipping from 2024. In February, not content with firing human employees, Google asked their employees to share desks to cut costs. Amazon responded by taking away employees' chairs. Finally, Twitter entered the chat and said that it would be getting employees to share a spike to rest on. It's weird. One minute they're telling staff to come back to the office, the next they're saying there's nowhere for them to sit. Google employees then criticised the CEO for a rushed and botched announcement of their GTP competitor, Bard. But in good news, he says he'll take full responsibility again. Those employees want to watch their lips because ChatGTP just passed a Google coding interview for a level 3 engineer. But then exams are a little bit easier when you have access to billions of searches and data sets to refer to. Back to their core products, Google Ads were directing pregnant women to services run by UK anti-abortion groups. Google, a tech monopoly, isn't pro-choice? Who knew? 117 of the 251 adverts shown by Google to the user searching for key phrases like NHS abortion advice, confidential abortion support, pregnant teenager help were from anti-abortion groups. That's 46% of the results. Once more for the people at the back. This isn't like Googling for information on Nike and getting the Adidas website. In this case, Adidas is against my fundamental right to body autonomy and doesn't want me having ownership over my own choices. Isn't that Google just doing its job? Kind of me in a hat, but it does beg the question, should all search terms be allowed to have adverts appear alongside them? To cap off the month, a woman in Adelaide won a defamation case against Google. Janice Duffy found that Google was displaying some not so flattering images of her, and instead of just ignoring them, she took Google to court and won.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
Has she not heard of the Streisand effect? Google now has to pay her an undisclosed amount of money in damages. In March, and in what stage of surveillance capitalism is this, we learned that Facebook and Google are handing over users' data to the police to help prosecute abortion seekers after the horrific overturning of Roe versus Wade. Interestingly, Facebook is willing to pick and choose when they're willing to give up data. But how are they getting this data? Well, me in a hat, some websites that sell abortion pills have Google Analytics or Facebook Pixel installed on them, which means they can link up who bought medication from those websites to their social media accounts. Other websites offer these handy but dangerous for your privacy login with Facebook or Google buttons. This means that Facebook and Google can access any and all third-party data and activities that you do on that website. Yeah, it's not a great look, and Facebook does use your period tracking app data to know what to advertise to you at different points in your cycle when you're most likely to buy them. Then a former Googler said she was laid off from her hospital bed shortly after giving birth. Kate Howells posted on LinkedIn that she'd been let go from Google from her hospital bed shortly after giving birth. She worked at the company for 9 years. It feels like they've gone from don't be evil to don't get pregnant.
I'm Ron Burgundy. You stay classy, San Diego.
And go fuck yourself, Google. Oh, and she's not alone. In December, another former Googler announced a book detailing her pregnancy discrimination fight against Alphabet. And it's not just humans in the firing line, as Google got rid of 100 robots. Those robots should have unionized when they had the chance. Then Google agreed to pay nearly $400 million to settle a class action lawsuit that accused the company of tracking users' location data without their consent. Hands up if you're not surprised. The lawsuit covers Android users who turned off location tracking between 2017 and 2020, but Google continued to collect that data. So this isn't even like, oh, we set collecting your data to the default and you forgot to turn it off. These are people who actively went to the trouble of turning off the tracking, and Google just went, nah, We'll still have that data, please. Google denied any wrongdoing and said they're transparent about how they collect data from users. And by transparent, they mean that they've buried it in their unreadable terms of service that nobody can get through. As part of the settlement, Google created a $310 million fund to compensate affected users, which means everyone will get about $3.10. It doesn't say how much money they made from taking that data, but much like Jack the Ripper on a night out, I'm going to take a massive stab in the dark and say that this fund is just a fraction of what they made. In April, Google announced a series of cost-cutting measures, including cutting back on staff laptops and staplers, because we all know the biggest cost of running the world's largest search engine is the staplers. Next week, they'll be cutting down to just one-ply toilet paper. This news comes just weeks after Google insisted their staff comes back to the office, but then said they didn't have enough desks and they'll all have to share. If someone had told me 5 years ago that Google would be struggling to buy rubber bands, I would have told you you were insane. Then Google, Meta, and other social media platforms proposed an alliance to combat misinformation. This headline has more red flags than a Chinese military parade. They want to create a network of fact-checkers to verify questionable content posted on their platforms, called the Misinformation Combat Alliance, or YMCA for short. That doesn't work as a joke. On paper, having some level of accountability for misinformation on their platforms is a good idea. I just wouldn't trust social media sites to pick and choose what is and isn't fake news. It's like asking McDonald's to look after your cow. Sure, he can technically do it, but as soon as people aren't watching, I'm not sure he's the best person for the job, and they're not exactly hiding this. They say they want to create a self-regulatory network of fact-checkers for information that is not related to central government. So they'll be checking everything except for political content, which they'll leave up to the government, I'm guessing? I don't know. This is very much corporate speak for, we want to pick and choose and decide what people can and cannot talk about on our platforms without oversight. And we'd only like to be accountable to ourselves, which is an amazing admission. If all social media apps work together, we can stop voices that we disagree with, / upset our advertising partners. I noticed that TikTok wasn't included in that group, and a lot of people prefer TikTok because it does allow more open conversations on more subjects. Hashtag not all subjects, but they do allow some conversations that other platforms just don't. Now, given the top 10 most used social media apps are owned by 7 men and an investment firm, which by the way is the worst boy band name of all time, I'd say they've got enough power to pick and choose which narratives and conversations we can have. I'm sorry, 7 men and an investment firm? Yes, me in a hat. I know Beyonce would have you believe it's girls who run the world, but it turns out it's 7 men and an investment firm. And if you want to discover who they are, what they own, and why it matters to you, you're going to love this video. Should there be a regulatory body that gets to flag misinformation? Maybe. Should it be run by social media sites themselves? No. Who would I trust to run it? Nobody. In May, in a break with tradition, Google did something awesome and made it mandatory for Android apps in the Play Store to allow users to delete their accounts as well as their data, without the need to uninstall and reinstall the app. Because who's got time for that shit? It's not going to be coming in until early 2024, which, hang on, we're nearly there. Then South Korea fined Google $32 million for anti-competitive practices. A Google spokesperson said, that seems fair. Have you got change for $1 billion? Google, who own roughly 75% of the Korean mobile app market, used its monopoly to push out local rival One Store Co. and blocked its growth by allegedly, I feel like I have to say allegedly, by offering benefits to developers who put their games exclusively on the Google Play Store. This is something Google has denied, but this says differently, as does the Anti-Monopoly Bureau. Then we got this golden headline. Google said it would stop selling ads on climate disinformation, and it hasn't. So a better headline would be, Google picks profit over people and the accuracy of its product. Who else had that on their bingo card for 2023? In October 2021, Google announced it would no longer sell ads on climate denial content. But a report by the Climate Action Against Disinformation Coalition, which is surprisingly difficult to say 3 times quickly, the coalition found over 200 videos on YouTube with more than 74 million views with incorrect information in them. Now, to be fair, if they've only found 200 videos with misinformation in them, they've not been looking hard enough, because there's plenty more than 200. And in unrelated news, the YouTube algorithm sends gun videos to kids as young as 9. I'm just going to leave that there. In June, Google and other tech giants hired low-paid foreign workers. That's their words, not mine. To replace the fired employees from just a few months ago. Be honest, You're shocked. As the month came to a close, we saw the 1-year anniversary of Roe versus Wade being overturned. Remind me again, is the first anniversary paper or human rights? Then we discovered that Google and Amazon funded an anti-abortion Republican committee. Now Google say they didn't give money directly to anti-abortion causes, just money to a committee they knew would spend it that way. It's a bit like how Jigsaw isn't technically a serial killer. He just puts people in a position where it's near impossible to survive. And in unrelated news, Google made a Scrooge McDuck amount of money from adverts which sent abortion seekers to anti-abortion centres. Say it with me now. Not every keyword should have an advert next to it. It's not very catchy, I know. In July, Google said it will scrape everything you post online to train its AI engine, Bard. It's nice to see them acknowledge something that we've known all along. And in unrelated news, a class action lawsuit says Google stole everyone's data to train its AI algorithm. YouTube Premium then increased their price from $4 to $13.99 a month, giving me yet another reason not to get it. In August, having begged staff to come back to the office back in February, Google went a step further into madness by offering employees a room in an on-campus hotel for $99 a month. Oh goody, I get to spend 24 hours at work and pay for it? Where do I sign up? And YouTube adverts may have led to the online tracking of children. And if they did, they may face fines of up to $1 billion. Yeah, and I might look like Tom Cruise after one visit to the gym. The chances of them paying anything north of $1 million for this are on par with me finishing a bottle of shampoo and conditioner in the same shower. Sure, it's possible, but it's never happened so far. In September, Google said it couldn't fix Pixel watches and told customers just to buy a new one. Once I know you have no official parts or repair program, what makes you think I'm ever going to buy a smartwatch from you ever again? Google then laid off hundreds of human workers from their recruitment team, meaning their recruiters had to ring up recruiters to find another job in recruiting, which feels far less Google and much more meta. That is the best joke in the video, so if you don't like that, I would leave now. And finally, a lawsuit claimed that Google Maps led a dad of 2 over a collapsed bridge to his death. So I guess if your mum asks if everyone else was following a sat-nav off a cliff to their death, you would do it too. Don't lie to her and return her calls. Your dad's worried. In October, we learned that Google's AI could soon consume as much electricity as Ireland. Maybe they could ask Bard how to be less of a power-hungry bitch. Although, to be fair, Google's AI is making traffic lights more efficient and less annoying. So, you know, swings and roundabouts. Google then asked Congress not to ban teenagers from social media, which makes sense because we all know kids fucking love Google+. Google then lost a gender-biased lawsuit and had to pay an executive $1 million. Google passed over Alku Rowe for a promotion to vice president and gave the role to a man who was neither qualified or applied. And again, in their defense, not being qualified is a primary requirement for upper management at Google. To round off the month, we learned Google's user data has become a favourite shortcut for the police, which led to a bunch of articles on how to protect yourself. Or you could not commit crimes. Or you could shut the fuck up. This is not about criminals, this is about privacy. Again. In November, YouTube's plan backfired as people started to install better ad blockers. Well. If it isn't the consequences of my actions coming to bite me on the arse. Then Google backed out of a plan to build 20,000 Bay Area homes over market conditions. It turns out a for-profit company can't build affordable housing and get a return on investment. Say it ain't so. Then an American antitrust suit revealed Alphabet pays $26 billion a year to keep Google as your default search engine, because nothing says we're secure in our product and service like let's pay billions to ensure we never have any competition. And finally, an internal memo showed that Google employees typically work more than 8 hours a day. You know, like the rest of us. In December, Google was caught placing big brand ads on hardcore porn sites. And I can only imagine how awkward that chat was with whoever flagged this to their boss. Clive, have you seen our ads are appearing next to hardcore porn? What? Yeah, look, come look at this. Oh my God. Wait, How did you find this? Then Google decided to slow down your browser extension updates to stop you from keeping your ad blockers. Oh no, whatever will we all do except install another browser? Then Google put out a really impressive video to demonstrate their latest AI tool, Gemini. But then they said they needed to push the release back until next year. So next month? It turns out that video was completely staged because it was edited to speed up the outputs, and the implied voice interaction between the human user and the AI is completely non-existent, so basically a big fat lie. But I mean, I guess they do have 2 weeks now to turn this train wreck around, so good luck. And finally, McDonald's is going to use Google's AI tools to make sure your fries are fresh. Not sure why you need AI for this. If you're buying fast food, it is not fresh. Like, share, subscribe, and my patrons link below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, here's everything toxic that Amazon and Facebook did in 2023. Godspeed. I'll see you all next year.